Welcome to the Heavy Spoilers Show. I'm your host Paul, aka the Headless Hostman, and this video we're breaking down the ending of The Haunting of Bly Manor. There will be heavy spoilers here, so if you haven't had a chance to check out the season yet, then I highly recommend that you check out now. Please smash that thumbs up button if you think ghost puns are the shit, and subscribe to the channel because that's the spirit. With that out of the way, thank you for clicking this. Now let's get into the breakdown before I ruin the video with these terrible puns. Now, The Haunting of Bly Manor is loosely based on the book The Turn of the Screw. This psychological supernatural horror has been the basis for a lot of ghost stories such as The Innocents, The Haunting, The Others, and even The Turning, which was released earlier this year. Unlike the other adaptations though, Bly Manor isn't so much a ghost story as it is a love one. The show carries the central theme of memory as well as the past, and the series showcases how several characters are haunted by theirs. There's a real dichotomy here with us seeing how some characters will try and escape their past, whilst others won't let go of it. If you've seen Flanagan's other work, Dr. Sleep, you may remember in that there was a line that stated memories are the real ghosts, and though we do get our fair share of the supernatural here, it definitely feels like it dabbles in this motif. We pick up at a wedding dinner rehearsal and are introduced to Jamie, a woman who recounts the story of her deceased lover Danny, an au pair that worked at Bly Manor in the 80s. Danny is haunted by the ghost of her ex-fiancé, who tragically died several years prior, and she moves out to the UK in order to get away from this. Throughout the series, it's revealed that Danny is actually gay, and when she came out to her partner, he ended up getting knocked over. His ghost has followed her since this moment, and she's desperate to try and escape him and her past. Ultimately, when one is trying to flee from something, they often are unable to because the thing that they're trying to run away from will inevitably become their driving force, and her inability to let go ends up making her constantly live in fear. This is reflected in several of the characters that we meet throughout the season, including Henry Wingrave. A lot of the character arcs in the show actually stem from Henry, and he oversees his brother's estate, who sadly died before the events of the series. It's revealed that Henry had an affair with his sister-in-law, and that he is actually the father of Flora, one of the children that lives at the manor. Because of his guilt over this, Henry has mentally manifested a darker version of himself that he has to live with. Instead of facing up to the fact that he should take responsibility for both Flora and her brother Miles, he stays in his office, ringing the manor in the hopes that one day he will have the guts to tell the truth. There's also Peter Quint, who one could call the villain of the show, and in prior adaptations he was certainly portrayed this way. However, Bly Manor paints him out in a much more complicated light, and we realise that he's not only trying to escape the abuse that he suffered as a child, but he also refuses to let go of the one good thing in his life. That is Rebecca, the prior au pair at the manor, who ends up falling in love with Peter. After Peter is killed by one of the ghosts, known as the Lady of the Lake, he manipulates Rebecca into dying too because he refuses to let go of her. Peter even takes Rebecca to some of their happier moments in order to make it seem like they will live like that forever, when in reality his inability to let go of the past leads to them being trapped in a living hell on the grounds. It's said that Peter doesn't understand the difference between love and possession, and this becomes literal when he and Rebecca try to take over the children's bodies in order to escape the grounds. Rebecca doesn't go through with this, and she becomes one of the first characters to truly break the cycle that so many of them end up becoming victims to. Our next character is Hannah, an almost Dr. Manhattan-like ghost who can't accept her death because of the repercussions it would have on her mentally. She lives moments of her life almost simultaneously, jumping about from the past to the future, and due to her inability to accept her fate, she is truly unable to hold on to any of the moments that she experiences. Now, it is revealed that the spirits within the house are all sucked into a gravity well of despair caused by the Lady of the Lake. We learn the lady was the prior owner of Bly Manor, and that she was killed by her own sister, who smothered her on her deathbed. The lady, known as Viola, wished to see her daughter more than anything, and this memory tortured her ghost for decades, ultimately becoming her driving force in the end. Viola would lie at the bed of the lake located at Bly Manor, and every night she would wander into the house, mercilessly murdering all that crossed her path in the search for her daughter. I love how this motif was first set up in what was a purgatory for her, and after waking up dead, she walks the room, returns to her bed, and then rinse and repeat. This ends up happening on a grander scale with her wandering the halls at night, and it's also the reason why the children tell Danny that she mustn't go about the house in the darkness, as, like clockwork, Viola will roam the halls. This idea of holding onto the past drives her mad, and the never-ending search for her daughter causes a lot of misery. The lady never finds her, but she carries out this routine in the hopes of one day coming across her so that the two can be reunited. After all the memories of her life fade away, she still instinctively carries out this search, even though she doesn't know why. Finally, this idea of repetition and holding on to the past is mirrored in Jamie, who runs a bath for Danny every night and leaves the door unlocked in the hopes that one day the two will meet again. Now those are the key players that we kind of have to discuss in order to fully process the ending and the events that happen in the show. I don't want to do a full season recap as chances are you've already watched it, but just to add some context, the basic plot follows Danny as she unearths the truth about the house, including what really happened with Peter and Rebecca's death. As we mentioned, Peter ends up possessing Miles, and Rebecca lets Flora go, which allows Danny to escape the house with her. However, things hit the fan when the Lady of the Lake arrives, and she attempts to kill Danny and pull her into her gravity well. However, Flora poses as her daughter, and due to her existing purely on instinct, she attempts to take her back to the lake. Danny gives herself up to the ghost by uttering the phrase, "It's you, it's me, it's us." This is something that had existed in the house for centuries, passed on by the inhabitants and ghosts to the living, who then passed it on to the following occupiers. Now, though we don't get this confirmed, I do believe that it was Rebecca who possessed her in some manner in order to make her aware of the words, and thus she was able to invite Viola's ghost into herself. With the lady's gravity of despair now living within Danny, the spirits of the house are finally released. The family and Danny and Jamie move to the US, and the latter pair try and build a life together, aware that one day Viola will take over. Though gay marriage wasn't legal at the time, the two decide to wear their rings as a sign of their commitment, and they spend years with each other. However, Viola starts to appear in reflections, much like how Danny's ex-fiancé did. This time though, it's much worse as the ghost is in place of her, and thus the PTSD from her prior haunting starts to make her doubt whether she can remain in control of the situation. One day, Danny finds herself almost strangling Jamie, and she realizes that they can't risk the danger that Viola poses. Thus, she heads back to the manor and drowns herself in the lake. The routine of Viola overpowers her, but Danny holds herself at the bottom of the lake, waiting until the lady fades like all memories do. Jamie spends years waiting for her lover to return, and we realize that she has been in fact narrating the events of Bly to Flora and the guests of her wedding. We learn that both Miles and Flora slowly forgot the events of the manor, and their memories faded as they grew. Because they were able to let go of the past, primarily due to their age, they were able to move on and build lives for themselves. Memories work twofold, and though they can give you purpose, which we saw demonstrated in some of the ghosts, they can also hold you back. Now, the show has a very bittersweet ending, with us seeing that the characters have grown older and moved on from the events of the series, except for Jamie, who still holds out for the return of Danny. Not gonna lie, that song at the end had me a bit, well, there was some dust in the room, but you know. Now, the series ends with Jamie sitting in her chair with the door open, and we see Danny's hand come into the shot. She's still wearing the wedding ring that the pair bought as a symbol of their love, and finally she's returned after escaping the lake. But how was this possible? Well, the main thing that was keeping the ghosts on the ground was Viola and her gravity well that pulled all the spirits to the location. This is how they were unable to leave, and they remained on the property, living so long that they forgot their lives, identities, and even what they looked like. I believe that the same thing happened with Viola, and with Danny holding her in place for decades, she slowly started to forget everything until there was a point in which she would finally forget about her hold over Danny and let go of her. As Danny was much younger than her and hadn't spent the centuries prior on the lake bed, she still had memories of her life. The fact that she would be able to return to Jamie if she just outlasted Viola gave her a purpose, and thus she remained in place. Jamie's memories of their life together too is what gave her a purpose, and even though the show wrestles back and forth with letting go of the past and holding on to it, I think when it's a positive memory, it very much carries the message that one shouldn't let go. Nowhere is this more prevalent than in the opening episode, in which Owen practices his wedding speech. He states that the worth of loving someone is also worth the pain of losing them, and though we are all destined to leave behind the ones that we love at some point, the memories that we have of them are what we'll truly hold on to. It's very bittersweet, and just as Flora has a life ahead of her in which she will lose the person she loves eventually, she's likely going to create a lot of amazing memories with him. That's the central theme of the show, to me at least, and in the end Jamie is reunited with the one that she loves, much like how Owen and Hannah will be, Peter and Rebecca were, and Henry and his daughter are as they dance at the latter's wedding. It brings everything full circle and closes out the season on a high note, and I'm not crying, I'm crying. Now before we get into the review, I just want to let you know we're giving away 3 copies of the Marvel Phase 1 box set to our subscribers. All you have to do to be in with a chance of winning is like the video, subscribe to the channel and leave your thoughts on the show in the comment section below. The winner is going to be chosen at random on the 30th of October and the set will be shipped out from then to whoever gets the prize, so best of luck to everyone who takes part. Okay, so The Haunting of Hill House is actually my favourite Netflix show ever. I found that it perfectly handled the themes of family, the horror elements, and told the heartwarming story of Hill House in the perfect way. What wasn't that heartwarming, I suppose. Now naturally I was very hyped for this season, but I think that may have led to me being slightly disappointed in it. But though it has some brilliant moments, on the whole I felt that it slightly paled in comparison to the prior entry. To me, the characters just weren't as interesting as the Cranes, and whereas that had episodes that really gave light to each character that allowed you to get swept up in their lives, here I found it really difficult to engage with anyone. I feel like there's so many elements remixed here that don't quite capture the imagination of the original. For example, the twist with Hannah is very similar to the Bent Neck Lady. They go through the adults' lives and then the kids get episodes. They have a character that's haunted by his own visions of someone close to him, and it just follows the same sort of steps. Even the background ghosts this time feel like they've just been placed there to recapture the original series and play on its motifs without truly pushing the boat out. Now it certainly isn't bad, but the pacing is slightly off, and at 9 hours I do feel like there are several elements that could have been cut here to provide a much brisker storyline. There's only so many times Danny can wander around the home before it becomes repetitive, and though the background ghosts, they were fun to spot, at points it felt as empty as the halls of the house itself. Now saying that, it is brilliantly directed and acted too. Everyone here handles the material really well and each character is memorable. However, the pacing just leaves things feeling a bit off at times, especially when this is a story that's been adapted countless times before. I think when we hit Viola's backstory, things slow to a crawl, and by the time we return to the characters for the finale, it just feels a bit disjointed. We then spend a lot of time out of the house for the last hour. I don't know, kinda Return of the King did a bit for me. I still love E. Flanagan, and I'm very hyped to see what the director does next, but for now, I don't know how I feel about this. If I was gonna score this season, I think I'd give it a 6 out of 10. But who knows whether that's gonna improve or decrease after a revisit. I actually watched the series twice in preparation for this just to make sure I was bang on with my score, and by the end of it I do still stand by it. Now obviously I'd love to hear your thoughts on the season, so make sure you comment below and let me know. If you want something else to watch, then make sure you check out our breakdown of the prior entry and all the hidden ghosts, which is going to be linked at the end. Make sure you stay locked to the channel as we will be dropping a full hidden ghost video soon, and you definitely don't want to miss it. If you want to support us and get to see content early, then please consider clicking the join button below. You can also come chat to us on the Discord server linked in the description, or Heavy Spoilers on Twitter. Thanks for making it until the end of the video. You've been the best, I've been Paul, and I'll see you next time. Take care, peace.